Nora, we can hear you now if you want to go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. I think that for the audience listening, they should take note that the guest just said that legal arguments of international law and that ethical arguments about morality here are a distraction. In fact, those are pillars of how we organize society and ourselves. And if we just want to pivot to the political and look at the historical events, then remember that in 1988, it was Yasser Arafat, the head of the PLO, who recognized Israel as a state. And in response, Yitzhak Rabin never recognized Palestine, but only recognized that the Palestinian Liberation Organization represented Palestinians. I also want to point out to the audience that we cannot create a false equivalency between the only nuclear power in the Middle East, that is the 8th largest exporter of weapons, that is the only has complete jurisdiction, the only sovereign from the river to the sea who can control the movement of even the so-called Palestinian president from leaving, and equivocate between them. Right now, the reason it's apartheid is because only one side, the Israeli side, is committing systematic human rights abuses against Palestinians. Palestinians are not committing systematic human rights abuses against Israelis. They do not control their access to water. They do not control their education. They do not control their economy. They do not control their movement. They cannot detain them in the middle of the night through a home raid and then subject them to trials without representation. They cannot detain them without charge or trial. So we must be careful that, yes, this has to require outside intervention. Palestinians will need an international community based on law, morality, politics in order to end the situation, just as it required an international community to end apartheid in Namibia, apartheid in South Africa, just as it required an international community to end the colonization of colonized peoples. People in power will not relinquish their power on their own. And it's not just that Israelis do not want a Palestinian state. To the professor who spoke, Israelis polled want to even forcibly transfer their own citizens of the state. They want 56% want to transfer Palestinian citizens of the state. 82% want to completely ethnically cleanse Gaza and replace it. And that is because they have been impugned. Nobody has held them to account. And so that is our failure and why we must intervene, and it will require an international community to do the work. We can't leave it to Palestinians and Israelis because Palestinians have no power.